Welcome to Globe Arts. I'm Zoe and this is Jackie.
We really hope you enjoy our how-to tutorials. I'm going to show you how to create a relief print using a polystyrene plate. So we're going to have a little go at printmaking using a polystyrene plate. You'll need some printing ink and you'll need your printing roller. And you're also going to need something on which to roll your ink onto. This is just a little bit of plastic plate, but a piece of acetate, anything that's wipeable is acceptable. So to begin with, just pop out onto your plate a small amount of the printing ink, like so, and you can pop that to one side. And then on your poly plate, you need to sketch out your design. Now you can pre-draw it with biro, but what you need to be thinking of is that you're working very, very faintly to begin with. So you don't want to be putting any pressure on the plate initially, because any pressure will start to create a groove and a mark, and that is going to transfer onto your print. So just while you're getting your design sorted, work faintly and gently, just enough so that you can see the design that you want to pop on there. I'm going for the idea of leaf shape, but I'm going to fancy it up a little bit. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that as an idea. Now that I'm ready to go with the idea, I'm going to use the biro to start adding more pressure, and I'm pressing about halfway down the plate. You're creating a groove. You don't want to be going right through to the other side. That's a little bit dangerous if you do that, because you can end up splitting your plate into pieces and you don't really want to be jigsawing it back together. So it's a case of working over those lines reasonably firmly, but not so deep as you go right through. So I'm just starting off with the line areas. Now it's quite a nice idea to actually fill in some of the spaces as well. You don't have to have everything as a line drawing. You can start to think about your printing plate as an equal balance of colour and the white of the paper. So on these shapes here, I'm just going to use the biro to push that polystyrene down. So I'm really exaggerating this shape now against the background and the other part of the leaf. And then inside this shape, I'm going to use pointillism, a series of dots, one after the other. This will create an interesting texture. The idea is that with this kind of printmaking, you're pushing away the polystyrene, and this is going to stop the ink that we roll onto it from catching those pushed down areas, those grooves. So the ink will only sit on the surface. So all these little dots will appear as white speckles all over the plant. Now this spiral here isn't going to appear unless I actually sketch that in, so I'm going to carefully try and draw that next. And it's a really good opportunity to think about different types of mark making. So we've tried the dots, we've worked with straight lines, but you can also think of mark making techniques such as hatching and cross hatching. Hatching is a series of lines which go kind of just in one direction to create an area of tonal value. So we'll put a little bit of hatching in here. Again, these spirals, if I want those, I'm going to have to record those with my biro. I'm going to have to go around them. Otherwise they won't show. So once I'm happy with my design, put that to one side. I've got my printing ink out on my plate. Now the key to this is to think about inking your roller, but you're not interested really in inking the whole of the plate to the edges. All that's going to do is have you spilling ink everywhere. It's really just enough space to create a patch of ink. Now sometimes the ink can be quite runny and sometimes it can be quite tacky. So you really need to pay attention to the consistency of the ink. Now I've noticed that this is quite runny, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my thumbs on here in these little grooves and I'm just going to push down hard and move the ink to the top. Notice the roller isn't rolling, it's actually just pushing the line of ink up to there. I can now go back to distributing the ink a little better, and that seems to me to be a little bit more of a decent consistency. It should have a sort of velvety look to it. If the ink is making a noise like a sound, if it's clacking, then you've probably got it too sticky, and you can also tell because it will have little peaks in it. So you want to avoid that. You can see that is just really nice and velvety. So on your newsprint, obviously something sparse because you're probably going to get ink around it when we're applying this onto the surface, so make sure you've got something underneath. And then what you're aiming to do is apply this over the printing plate. At this stage it gives you a fairly good idea of what you might get as a print. And notice I'm going vertically and then I'm going across and I'm going to pick up more ink. I want to be able to get a really nice even coat and layer. And here I'm going to add a little bit more ink. I have that line at the top, so it's easy to add more, saves me going back to the tube. Making sure I get the edges. It's starting to look really nice now, starting to look evenly coated. Notice as well my roller is hanging over the edge a little bit. This makes sure that I get the corners of the printing plate. Okay, so just over printing a little bit, just that I get right to the edges. Okay, I feel like that's about good to go. Now at this point you need a clean space. I've noticed I've collected this area nice and clean. That's for my piece of paper that I'm going to print onto, because I don't want to get any of this onto here. Okay, so at this point I'm going to flip the design. Now if you've not worked this out already, you should be aware that your design is going to be a mirror of itself. Therefore, it's not a great idea to apply things like text unless you plan to sketch it out and draw it out backwards, as in a mirror. So once we've got it like this, we can firmly press on. What I like to do is burnish the print. So if possible, flip it over, make sure your hands are clean, and then using this part of your hand, you're just going to rub in circles. What this is doing is it's warming the back of the paper, creating a friction between that and the ink. That in turn warms the ink and encourages it to fix more evenly to the paper, so that you should have a less patchy looking print. And then once we've got that, hold the paper and the plate steady with one hand, and then take the corner with the other and begin to peel back. And you should find that you have a really lovely print response with lovely clean edges and nicely framed.